Good evening and welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm your host, John Ronan, and as you know now, because we're in our 35th season, I talk to writers mostly about their craft, what they've accomplished, what they're working on, what they're planning for the future. We do have other brands of artists on occasionally, sculptors, musicians, actors. If you have an idea for someone who might be a good fit for the Writer's Block, writer or other brand, watch for our address at the end of the show. We'd be glad to get your suggestions. I also want to remind you that the Writer's Block and all the other original programming out of 1623 Studios is a wonderful community asset, a valuable community asset. You don't get it with Dish or other ways of accessing the net. So stick with cable, stick with the Writer's Block. Tonight, I'm happy to say, we do have a writer by the name of JoeAnn Hart, who is coming back because she is so prolific and so good at what she does. We're going to be talking about her new novel, Arroyo Circle. I'm going to hold that up, and we will have a JPEG of that during the show as well. JoeAnn Hart, welcome back.
Oh, John, thank you so much for having me. And thank you, 1623 Studios. You're right, it's an incredible asset to the community.
It is good. I'm glad you're a willing participant.
We're a fan.
Arroyo Circle is your latest novel, and it's about, well, I'm not going to say what it's about. Tell me what it's about.
All right, so it's set in Boulder, Colorado, where I used to live.
Yes.
Yeah, I used to live there in the late 70s. It's actually where I met my husband, who then brought me to Gloucester. But I've been going back to Boulder for decades, all this time. Friends and family still there. And so I started the novel in 2017, actually when my brother died. And so my brother was a homeless alcoholic for most of his life. And so I sort of had this need to create a character who was a homeless alcoholic.
Les.
And so that was, yes. Now I made Les a former NOAA scientist, but my brother wasn't stupid, but, I just really needed to get into the head of a, homeless alcoholic. And then I had, so there's that. I write mostly, as you know, a lot of everything is influenced by the climate. And this novel very much so, set in Colorado. There's wildfires and floods. There's a lot of environmental issues all brought on by ourselves. So, and that involves, so there's Les, the alcoholic, and then there's Shelley, who is sort of the handmaiden to a hoarder. She works for a hoarder. And, hoarding sort of is in the novel sort of representing our late stage capitalism and always needing much more than what we already have. And which hurts the climate. And so, so Shelley, so the book starts out with Shelley is shopping for her boss, as she always is, and put a kitty litter, giant plastic bin of kitty litter in the trunk of her car. And somebody seems to think that she's put a baby carrier in the trunk of her car. And also, it's like a hot August day. It's like 110 degrees. The city's filled with smoke from the wildfires.
There's wildfires going already.
Wildfires are starting, yes. The wildfires, and it's funny, I had the wildfires come into the city of Boulder, which really doesn't happen because of the downdraft. They have to come out of the mountains and go down into a valley, and so that the fires want to go up. But there are circumstances where it will do that. And then a year later, wildfires came into the city of Boulder, into the actual city. So that was a little eerie. There were other eerie things about the writing of it. But so that's the incident that starts the book. And so it starts with wildfires. We go through the pandemic.
The wildfires, there's a flood.
There's a flood.
And there's COVID.
There's COVID.
Did you have a tough time deciding whether the disasters were going to be foremost or the human plot would be foremost?
So they're intertwined because climate change is something that happens to us. It's something, climate change, it happens to the planet, but it affects all living things, and it affects humans. Even the fact of like smoke in the city that day, I mean, wildfire smoke is known to make people make bad decisions. And so that particular day, a lot of bad decisions were made. And, and people, die from the heat. I mean, climate change is human suffering. And so I put the characters in this place I love, Boulder, spectacularly gorgeous, magical place. And then, inflict them with all that climate change.
And there is no escape. I know Asheville thought it was kind of a cove of separation, and found out otherwise.
Yeah.
Sadly, tragically.
Yeah, that's right.
You said you started this in 2017.
Yeah.
And when was the book in your hand?
August
of
this
24?
year. Yeah. Yes.
So 7 years in gestation.
Yeah, so it got, I finished it last year in 2023, and it got accepted fairly quickly by an environmental press, Green Writers Press out of Vermont. And and it takes the editor, so she accepted it. We signed a contract like last September. And it takes, the editorial process is very lengthy with the book. I mean, there's lots of different phases of the editorial process, and writing and back and forth, and
fact checking, and
oh yeah, there's lots of stuff that goes on. And but it went packed off to the printer August, I think I actually had that, like the arc in my hand in early September.
This all happens in and around Arroyo Circle,
Right.
which is it's a development.
Yeah, it's a dead end.
Yeah, it's a cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
A circle, and the people that are in and out of this. Mm-hmm. Shelley's the central character,
right,
and Les, who seems to me to be almost a symbol of the physical world.
Yeah.
He's kind of the world, and
yes, the earth itself.
Yes.
He sleeps on the earth. He is sort of one with the earth. Shelley lives on Arroyo Circle. Les lives in the creek that runs behind her house. If you know Boulder, there's a huge creek community of homeless.
I've never been.
So it's a big, and it's a problem, because it's like humans living along this body of water. Every once in a while they try to get them out, and they just come back. The weather in Boulder is pretty nice, which is why, like, a homeless community can pretty much live there year round. That even when it snows in Boulder, it's like a mile closer to the sun. When the sun comes up, it melts, and it's beautiful. Sun shines like 360 days.
How high is Boulder? What's the elevation?
Boulder is Denver's a mile-high city, so Boulder's like a little bit higher. So,
higher?
A little bit, yeah.
So when you visit, you have a little breathing problems initially?
Yeah, that's right. You already have breathing problems.
A couple of days?
Yeah, in mountainous regions, yeah. You've got that much less oxygen, which makes wildfires even more problematic, because they're sucking up what little oxygen there is.
I remember being in Wyoming, and the altitude, it was on a ranch, it was a couple thousand feet up.
Yeah.
And I was jogging a lot at that time.
Yeah, jogging.
I could tell the difference.
Right.
Instantly.
That's right. And that's why all the joggers, Boulder was like the jogging capital of the world in the 70s. And, that's what, because everybody went there to train. Because around the world, the marathon runners came to Boulder to train because it was a mile high. And they could run into the mountains from there, because that would improve their lungs and improve their chances at ground level. I love Boston and New York, the big marathon. And I congratulate you on knowing how to pronounce Arroyo, because I didn't know that was such an unfamiliar word to Easterners.
To
Easterners.
Unfamiliar.
Yes, unfamiliar word, but it wasn't unfamiliar to you. I didn't know till like this summer that my own publisher stumbled over the word until she had to admit, I have no idea how to pronounce it, which she might have said something earlier, but anyway. Yeah.
Arroyo.
Arroyo is like, Arroyo is actually more southwestern than mountain states, but I had already made a point that in Boulder, they named their street in their expansion, named the streets after Indians, tribes who were long gone, and more southwestern terms like Arroyo. In Boulder, it's a creek, but it's rarely dry. A real arroyo will get dry at parts of the years.
Is it like a wadi?
Yeah, it's like a wash, or there's a lot of different names for what an arroyo is.
Now, you have two topics here, and I think that the meld is very, very excellent. I didn't see a favoring of the humans or a favoring the climate. They're matched.
Yes.
And not yet at open warfare, but almost. And I liked the very, very well done intertwining of the two. The people themselves are intertwined. There's a conflict in the parking lot of a restaurant or a supermarket in the first chapter, couple chapters with, what is her name? Trudy?
Trudy, yes. Trudy, the shopping cart girl.
Yes, the shopping cart girl.
Yeah, because Shelley thinks, after Shelley, who is stopped by the police on her way back from the supermarket, surrounded by the police with guns, because they had a call that there was a baby in the trunk of the car. And, she was so furious at that. And that's actually an incident that happened to a friend of mine in Boulder, which is why I felt like I always wanted to use it, so I finally used it. But she was so angry, she went back to the supermarket and almost runs the shopping cart girl down.
Right. You describe in a couple places Shelley's character, and this is before she goes to Minnie, and of course, not when I want this jump out at me, it's not going to jump out at me. Something to the effect that her doubts quickly turn to anger.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that line? I've got it marked in some. She's characterized very, very well. And I thought the book was going to be primarily, or not primarily, but exclusively about the suspense between the people living there.
Right.
And with a background of climate disaster.
Yeah.
But the background becomes foreground, and it involves these people. Mimi dies. I don't know if I should say that. Nobody dies.
Yeah. Forget he said.
Well,
let's just say there's a number of deaths.
Yes.
I was pretty ruthless.
Yes.
Yeah.
That balances the humor.
Yeah. Funny deaths.
Was it a decision to start the book with human drama rather than the blaze?
Yes, because we really read for humans. That you can't just have like environment stuff. You have to. I mean, we novels are about conflict. Period. And so I've got the conflict between the humans, and then which then, as you say, sort of morphs into then everybody's like this, but then it's really like there are such much bigger fish to fry. I mean, the conflict with the environment around them. The environment becomes an enemy, and there's snow. I mean, winter. I mean, just like, yeah.
And then the environment, because of our mismanagement, kills.
Yes, that's right. And so the really, it's a novel about carelessness. Everybody carelessness, and everybody's complicit in what's happened to the planet. Like everybody is sort of complicit in the tragedies that happen in the book. There, everybody. It's like the excessive shopping, of Mimi's, and then Shelley not questioning this excessive shop, that she's just doing, obeying orders. Everybody is just complicit in, there's the police officer who makes a bad decision. A mother in the story makes a really bad decision. And so there's a lot, even less, by his decision of leaving Noah to go live by the creek, that's like, he could have stayed and helped, move that science forward or be an advocate.
Yeah.
And instead, he's just so frustrated by the inaction on getting carbon out of the atmosphere that he just like wanders off.
I like the idea you make these major worldwide problems become personal.
Right.
So we're involved in this. And the hoarder, whom Shelley takes care of, can't get out the window at the end when her house is burning down because all of the garbage that she's hoarded is preventing her from escaping. Essentially, her overbuying and mental problem with that kills her.
That's right. I mean, that's like we are killing ourselves with what we're doing to the planet. Just like and we can't get out, because of what we've done.
No planet B.
Yeah, no planet B. And so there's, like everybody is complicit. Some more so than others. Less. I don't like to think of his as being really complicit, but he is even that little bit. And everybody is careless. Everybody's careless with the baby. They're careless with the baby. They're careless they're careless with the earth. They're careless with fire. Everybody is just being careless.
Yes. There's never, for me, there wasn't a place anywhere in the book where I cared more about the climate or more about the people. They were both of those avenues of theme and events are riveting.
Yeah.
Because we're involved.
Yeah.
You see, the Asheville. That's in my mind because a niece of mine was planning a vacation.
Yeah.
She was supposed to be down there that week.
Oh my God. A place that was thought safe.
Yeah.
But in fact, in mountainous regions, I'm not sure if Asheville had a history of wildfires, but in mountainous regions, wildfires and flooding are two sides of the same coin. That you get your wildfires and they get rid of everything that might suck in the water. Come the spring, when the snow melt comes, there's nothing there to hold back the melting snow, and then there's flooding. So I don't know if Asheville had a history of wildfires as well, but mountainous regions are notorious flooding areas.
And you know that from Colorado.
I know that from Colorado. Also, I know a lot about fire and floods and other natural disasters by just scientific research. Lots and lots and lots of research. I mean, it takes so long. I mean, it took from 2017 to 2024 to produce a book because, one, novels are hard, and two, because I had to do so much research. Because
that's one of my next questions.
Yes, that I read. I can't believe how many books I read about fire. Including Sebastian Junger wrote an excellent book about fire when he was a fire jumper. And because you have to sort of get the science right, to create a fictional fire, you really have to know how real fires move and how it can be that a fire can go downhill.
Tell us a little bit about when you're planning the book. You've got to work on the characters, the plot, and the climate disasters. Because you mentioned the research.
Yeah.
How did you start on the research? Where did you go? What sources or what leads to sources did you find? Yeah,
well, fire books are easy because there's a million fire books out there because America's burning. I mean, the world is burning, Canada's burning, and so there's a lot of great books out there recording a lot of these, like the McHenry Fort fire in Canada, I mean, these mega fires that they're calling them that hadn't been seen before. So that's an easy one. There's a lot out there. And then those books will often touch on flooding, the science of flooding and why that happens, because, as I said, in the mountain areas, it's two sides of the same coin. So, so I just had to do like a search on books for fires. So, but other things, because there's so much metaphysics and quantum physics in here. I mean, Les is a scientist, so I had to learn his science too. And so there is actually a blog I follow called Marginalia that by Maria Popova, who is like an incredibly curious human being. And every week her blog sends me off like discover quantum physics or like how the stars move in the universe. I mean, it's just, and also an excerpt, so I don't have to read a whole book. So, so I had to read a lot.
Did you get to, I'm curious about the mechanics of the research, did you get to a chapter where you had to have a fire do something, so then you went out and read a couple books about fire movement?
Yes.
And then
sit down and write fire
and then
scenes.
later on in the book, if you wanted to talk about rescuing people from a house during a fire,
Right.
you go out and get another book.
Yeah, that's right. And the materials out there. And also, like, writing itself is hard. I mean, you want a break. I mean, you want to step back and just like you're going down the rabbit hole of reading all about fires. What might be a 10-page scene, and I'm spending 2 months reading books on fires.
I admire that stamina.
Yeah.
The 7 years seems almost not enough time
Right.
to get all that in.
Yeah. And also, I come from a long line of firefighters in New York City. So, yes, I come from in the Bronx. There were lots of relatives in the fire department. Some there for 9/11. Yeah, and so, and police department as well. So, it's.
So you weren't born and bred in Colorado.
No. I was born and bred in the Bronx in New York, and then in the suburbs of New York, and then found my way to Boulder in the late 70s. So no, I'm not Colorado native.
I think that's vaguely familiar from the origin questions I asked when you were first on.
Right, yeah.
But it's kind of slipped away a
Yeah.
little bit. Who were the models for your characters? And especially for Les, was it difficult to think about your brother or model him on your brother?
Yes, yeah. So it was, but I always had it was a way of keeping my brother close for a while longer. And it was like, and I put a lot of love into Les. Les is like really the ethical core, the moral core of the book. He does. I really love Les, and then the other characters. Shelley. Because what I really wanted was that anecdote of putting the kitty litter in the car, and so. And then I knew I had hoarding in the family, so I wanted to use hoarding. So it's just like what any novel.
Was there a real case where someone was accused of putting a baby in a truck?
Yes, that was a friend of mine in Boulder. That she was she was shopping for her boss, put kitty litter in the trunk of the car, and then was stopped on the way home by the police. And surrounded with guns. And then I made up the rest about it. But that was a real incident in Boulder. And not only that, but my friend, so she's on her way home in real life, her husband's sitting at home, and a SWAT team comes and surrounds the house. So it wasn't just that she was surrounded by police and pulled over on the road. Her house was surrounded by a SWAT. So it was.
But that's an offense that's being perpetrated often now.
Right. Well, that's right. Swatting.
Yeah. There's a line in the book, and of course, whenever I look for a line, I can't find it. That less is the world. So less is the world.
Right.
He is, or even the cosmos, bigger. And he's very sympathetic. And we don't see him, I assume we don't see him in his worst moments because he's bright and he's integral to the story and helpful.
Right, very helpful.
Very helpful, extremely helpful.
Yeah, so Les is actually a shapeshifter as well, that, and that may or may not have to do with his alcohol intake. But shapeshifting means, and if you were a Boulder native, you would be well familiar with shapeshifting, maybe not so much here, is that you sort of inhabit the soul of an animal. And so, like when he needs to go fly somewhere or do something, he will latch on. His soul will latch on to
a Native American.
Yes, yeah, and although he's not particularly Native American, he could be, but not quite. And so he'll shapeshift and get what needs to be done.
We're getting almost out of time. Yeah. I want to mention a couple points here. Your humor is excellent. This is a very serious book, and there are serious tragedies in it. But there are lines like this. I sense death all around you, Les says. Les, it's a hospital during plague. It doesn't take any special talent to sense death there. Very good. And that, there's horrible things going on, but that lightens up.
Mm-hmm. I know. Well, sometimes in the face of death and tragedy, all you can do is laugh.
Yes. Another example is, it's bad news for the planet when carrion birds are the dominant species. And early in the book, there is a wonderful instance of humor when, well, you can tell us. Yeah. Shelley is going out with a man named Wayne. She doesn't want to share that. Why doesn't she want to share that with people?
Yeah, because it's a real company. I saw the truck drive by once called Wayne's Drains. They're like a roto-rooter. They clean out plumbing. And of course, she was the manager of the hoarding house. And things break all the time in a hoarding house. And so she got to know him, and that was her boyfriend.
So she doesn't want to say, I'm going out with Wayne from Wayne's Drain.
Right.
Too embarrassing. That's a wonderful point in here.
Yeah.
We're out of time.
Yeah.
JoeAnn Hart, I want to thank you very much for coming down and talking to us again about your latest book. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful novel, Arroyo Circle, and it's available now everywhere.
And the bookstore should still have copies.
And they can get information from your website, which we are going to feature during the broadcast. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
I want to thank our TV audience as well for being with us. If you've learned something about Arroyo Circle and JoeAnn Hart's creativity to put that together, then the Writer's Block has done its job. Thanks for being with us, and I hope to see you again next time on the Writer's Block. Good night.